People, what's wrong with our system? Over 20 years ago, I just decided to start researching things for myself after a fellow I met in Colorado recommended to me a home study law course, and I took it. I got an interest in studying the law and researching things for myself. I'm not reading a teleprompter or anything like that right now, I'm just talking. So I did that. I know how to draw up my own court pleadings. I've filed a lot of cases over the years, defended my own stuff. But you know, in studying the law for myself and doing my own historical research, you know, going through old volumes of weekly press, you know, the best way to study history is to go back to that period of time and read what people had to say at that time, people that went through it. Not what people say on down the road that have, oh, this is my interpretation of it, to hell with that. What did the people that lived during that period go through? If you want to know that, read what they had to say back then. Dig up the old books and read it. That's how you find the truth. And I'm telling you, we're not being taught the truth. That's the problem with our society. If people were taught the truth, they'd know they're not free. They'd know they're in a condition of servitude. And I found that out. I mean, what the New Deal and Franklin Roosevelt did back in the 30s, it perverted the income tax to start taxing people's wages. See, when the income tax was first sold to the people in 1913 with the 16th Amendment, it was sold to the people as a tax upon the gains and profits of big corporations and wealthy people. It wasn't sold to the people as a tax upon their labor, what they got paid for working, or their wages. It wasn't sold to them like that. And for 23 years, less than 3% of the people had to pay income tax. Along comes Franklin Roosevelt and the New Deal. In the 1930s, I mean, there was a depression, so times were hard, but you see, they used that as a smokescreen, the politicians back then, to impose a system that was contrary to what had developed up to that point in time. I mean, our constitutional system of government had changed and developed up to that point in time by the Constitution being amended to change the government, not just the politicians just doing it and just brainwashing people into thinking it was legal. And that's basically what happened. The Constitution wasn't amended, but by golly, they changed it, and they just brainwashed the people into thinking it's legal. And all these folks with PhDs and master's degrees, they're just a bunch of liars and deceivers. I mean, just because somebody's a college professor doesn't mean they're honest. Hell, the four leaders of the Nazi death squads, the Einstein-Gruppen, yeah, they were all, you know, college-educated folks with honorary doctorates. And they were all the commanders of these Nazi death squads that went in after the German armies, you know, swept through an area like Poland, for example. And in comes the Nazi death squad, and they round up the Jews and kill them. And all of the commanders of those death squads were college-educated people with honorary doctorates. So, I mean, just because somebody's college-educated doesn't mean they're a nice person. So the problem with our system is basically this. We used to have a system of free labor, and that was supposed to be firmly established by the 13th Amendment after the Civil War. And that meant that if you worked for wages, then you receive your wages in full, and you get to plan your life the way you want to. And when you spend your money and buy stuff, you pay your taxes as a consumer. See, that was even before there were sales tax. I mean, you had tariff taxes. In other words, the taxes were kind of hidden in the purchase price of what you bought. Now you've got taxes hidden inside the purchase price of what you buy. And in addition to that, you pay sales tax on top of that. And in addition to that, you pay tax upon your labor. In other words, they determine the allowance from your wages. Now, any slaveholder of pre-Civil War times would tell you that whoever has the power to determine your allowance from your wages has enslaved you. They can take your labor away to any levels they want. You're not a free person. I mean, mean, on the floor of the House in 1866, a representative from Minnesota, I think Donnelly, said that a person can be enslaved when deprived of a portion of their wages, just the same as if they're deprived of all their wages. I mean, they knew that back then. So, I mean, really, when you think about that, yeah, they've changed the way we think, haven't they? The Constitution hasn't been amended. They've succeeded in changing the way we think to accomplish their objectives. It's a principle that what the Nazis, when Hitler was the Führer in Germany, they called it Gleichschaltung. In other words, it's the molding of the minds. You know, all the information fed to the people from the cradle to the grave, you just make sure it's coordinated in such a way to where their minds are molded to conform to the system. So that they'll think that even though you're taking their labor away from them and determining their allowance from labor, they're a free people. It works. It works. Yeah. This is the truth they're not going to tell you. But I figured, what the heck? You know, I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I just kind of get disgusted with what I see in the news media. They're not going to tell you the truth. All these people in the news media, they're a bunch of very rich people, yeah. They call themselves journalists, but they're not journalists, man. They're just part of the political establishment. You know, they're going to support the people that got lots of money, because, you know, they got lots of money too. They're rich, and they support the rich. I mean, yeah, they want to give you the illusion they're, you know, support you, but I don't really think they give a damn about you. Very few of them do. There are a few that do. There's not many. They're all out there to deceive you, folks. Lords and serfs. Lords and serfs been going on for a long time, and that's basically what we have here. We have a system of lords and serfs. You have a few people that make the rules, and we the people, the folks that live in this country, we just have to abide by their laws. They're going to plunder our wages, our labor to any levels they wish, and impose any kind of codes on us they wish. The Constitution was supposed to restrain all this stuff, but more and more it's just being diminished more and more, just bit by bit by bit. It's like the salesmen say, when it comes to your sales goals, by the yard it's hard, but by the inch it's a cinch. That is true. When it comes to taking your rights away, you don't want to do it all at once. You just chip away at it a little bit at a time, over decades, generations. And finally, you know, you slowly and methodically change the way people think. You take the rights away. It works. Anyway, folks, I've said all I'm going to say right now. Night, night. Y'all sleep well.